Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast, where today we're going over UFC 299, O'Malley versus Vera. First things first, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Give a follow over on TikTok, over on Twitter, over on Instagram, wherever there's social media. There is the Stats and Stacks podcast. Smash the like for this pod. And otherwise, a quick recap. Pretty decent week last week. Made a lot of good reads. Both locks came through, which is what we really care about here. Even had Loic start off the night with a W with a live dog there. So all in all, good night. But we want a clean sweep. We want to have a great night, baby. So at the end of the day, let's get back to it. The last pay-per-view before the UFC 300 spectacle that's supposed to occur. But this card is just as good, in all honesty, if not better than UFC 300. I don't think it's better, but it's very, very close. It rivals it. Main card's phenomenal. The main card may be better, but all in all, this is just a good card. No matter what, they are in Florida this week, so keep an eye out for some of these. There's not a lot of hometown Florida boys, but there are a lot of people that train at ATT, that train at Killcliff, MMA Masters. Like there's a lot of Florida-based gyms, and they are going to read fighting out of. So if you're looking for a hometown advantage, that's what we're looking for. But all in all, let's go ahead and just start the night off with women's MMA, baby. We have Joanne Wood at plus 190 going up against Marina Moroz at minus 130. Over under sitting at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 345. Under 2.5 at plus 250. And much to my surprise, this is actually a rematch that no one asked for. Let's start with Marina Moroz. She's not that great, to be honest with you. She's only 32, so she's in her prime. She has a boxing background that is her bread and butter is the stand-up, but she's got a nice little jiu-jitsu game on her. Has a whole bunch of armbar wins. It works a lot better on the regional scene than it does in the UFC. But she does have an armbar in the UFC, and it's over her opponent this Saturday, so that's ironically enough. All in all, she having an inch and a half reach advantage here. She has good striking. She has okay jujitsu. Her wrestling's not the greatest. She was able to take down Maria Agapova quite a bit, but I think everyone can do that. But Owen also tried to mix her wrestling in. She does have good cardio. She's just a little hittable. She has 45% takedown herself. So if you want her down, you can take her down. And she has no power whatsoever. If she hits you, there is no fear that you're going out. And it's kind of like her opponent, to be honest with you, JoJo Wood. A lot of people will remember her as JoJo Calderwood. Got married, took the last name Wood. She also has zero power, but is good on the feet. She's a pretty good striker. Problem with her, is that she's 38 years old. She's fought a good level of competition. She's probably fought the better girls, to be honest with you. She was one win away from fighting for a world title. It was actually promised to her. She didn't want to sit around and wait. So she fought Jennifer Maya, got her arm ripped off, and never got the title shot, which kind of sucks. But yeah, she has a good schedule. She has good striking, throws a ton of volume, like 7 significant strikes per minute. Um, but again, she has no power. She'll mix in like a trip takedown once in a while, but she's not a big wrestler. Her ground game is her biggest issue. She's been submitted a lot. I mean, you just go over her resume here: Alexa Grasso submission, Tyler Santos submission, Jennifer Maya submission, Marina Monroe submission, Jessica Andrade submission. Like it happens all the time. Her jiu-jitsu's not good. But again, you're looking at the names we're reading here. Grasso, current champ. Santos fought for the belt. Lauren Murphy fought for the belt. Jennifer Maya fought for the belt. Caitlin Chukagian fought for the belt twice. Cynthia Calvillo, Jessica Andrade, former champion. Like she's only losing to people that fought for a belt or were champions. Moroz is neither. Now, she does have good cardio, but she's just physically slow. And I think a lot of that is just her being 38 years old. She has no spring chicken. You will talk about the OnlyFans fade. If these girls have OnlyFans and they're bearing it all, generally they don't do well in the octagon. They make more money on OnlyFans. They're not training as hard, and they just don't seem to care. Marina Moroz does have an OnlyFans. However, the only thing that trumps the OnlyFans fade is retirement fade. If that R word comes out of your mouth, you're dead to me. They never win. I think again, Chris Lytle won and rode off into the sunset. Who else? Robbie Lawler won and rode off into the sunset, and that's it. No one else. DC didn't. You look at Donald Cerrone didn't. Tony Ferguson, I don't know if he's fighting again. As of right now, we'll say he didn't. If you mention retirement, you don't make it out. So I don't know, man. Which is worse, the OnlyFans fade or retirement? I want to say retirement's the worst phase, and I want to go ahead and just pick Morose here. She'll be the pick, but at these odds, man, it's a striker's delight. You're trusting Marina Morose to go out there and wrestle, because that's how JoJo loses. She gets taken down and decisioned, or she gets taken down and submitted. Morose is okay grappling, but it's not the greatest, and she can't really wrestle. So if this is a striking affair, Wood's going to have the volume. Neither one of these girls hit hard, so I don't know. I think she might be able to get it done. So the plus 190 is too much to overlook. So the pick is going to be Joe. You know what? The pick is going to be JoJo Calderwood. The bet's going to be Joanne Wood. And that takes us to the next fight of the night. It's the fight I'm most confident in, and we should be considering what the odds are. CJ Fagara plus 400 now, Asu Almabayev at minus 600. He's minus 455 when I jotted this down. Now he's all the way at minus 600. It's insane here. Over under, straight pick him at 2.5. Let's start with Asu since he's such a big favorite here. He is buddies with Shavkat Rakhmonov. You'll see that he's from I can never say Kazakhstan. He's good, man. He's predominantly a jiu-jitsu practitioner. Most of his wins are by submission. But he is really good wrestling, and his striking's not terrible. Like when he's on the feet, he will throw down. He hits decently hard here. Um, I don't really know where he's bad. Good cardio, good jiu-jitsu, good wrestling, okay striking. There's literally nothing wrong with this dude. He does have two career losses. It looks like he got grapple fucked by Tagir Ulianbekov, who's in the UFC and doing well, and then this other guy I've actually never heard of. So it's not like he's unbeatable. He's not undefeated. He has two career losses. But he came out here in his debut against Ode Osborne, who is, a ranked flyweight, and made it look easy. Like he's living up to the billing, he's living up to the hype. This kid is the goods. He's a top 10 fighter in this weight class. On the other side, we have CJ Vergara, who's not. He's always brought out here to lose, to be honest with you. Every single one of his UFC fights, he's been an underdog, and justifiably so. Ode Osborne, he went out there and he took that L. Clutson Rodriguez, he went out there and got a very questionable split decision. I was on CJ Vergara. I had money on CJ Vergara. I do not think he won that fight, but we'll take it. They sacrificed him to Tyra, where he went out there and got submitted. They tried to sacrifice him to Daniel Lacerda. I love Daniel Lacerda. I'm one of the only ones that love this guy. And he went out there and basically got killed. And then that's the one where he was running around the octagon just trying to survive. Lacerda did Lacerda things and gassed out, and then he got the decision there. And then Vinicius Salvador, coming off Dana White Contender Series, he was able to get a win over probably a fraudulent fighter in Salvador. Now, the common thing is Salvador has terrible gas tank. Daniel Lacerda is a terrible gas tank. Tyra has a good gas tank, and he lost. Hudson Rodriguez is a terrible gas tank. Ode Osborne actually has a terrible gas tank, and he still lost. So he keeps fighting these guys, surviving, and then getting the job done later on. He does it with his striking. He is a good striker. Probably the better striker out of the two, if not a wash. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage, which is nice. His cardio checks out, but his wrestling's not that great. He's rocking a 74% takedown defense. His wins, again, are very questionable in the UFC. His jiu-jitsu is not good. He's been submitted or grounded quite a bit here. The best part of his game is pressure. He always moves forward. He always pressures you, but he might walk right into a shot, so I don't know. He throws a lot of volume. It's very technical on the feet. But to me, fighting a foreign fighter that's a really good wrestler and world-class grappler, jiu-jitsu practitioner, he did that already in the Tatsuro Tairo fight. And he went out there and he got submitted in round 2. Asu's probably going to go out there and submit him in round 2. It's these. We saw this fight already. We saw how it ends. And ironically enough, when Asu fought Ode Osborne, he got the submission in round 2. So the pick is going to be Asu. The bet's going to be Asu. If you want to get fancy, you can do Asu by submission. If you want to get really fancy, you can do Asu by submission in round 2 and try to juice up that number because minus 600 is ridiculous. But he's going to dominate. Next fight of the night, we got the big boys. We have the debut of Robles Despain at minus 330 going up against Josh Parisian at plus 240. Over under set at 1.5. You are not mishearing this. The under 1.5 is at minus 320. Over 1.5 at plus 230. It's all because of this dude, the big boy, Robles. We got to start with Mr. Despain here. He is a world-class striker. He actually took a bronze medal in Taekwondo. I want to say it was in like 2004. It was a while ago. Maybe it was 2012. 2004 seems a little too late. It must have been 2012. At the end of the day, he is literally an Olympian in Taekwondo, which is a striking art. Look at the guy. He carries a ton of power. He is absolutely massive. He is 6'7", has an 87-inch reach. It's insane. And the craziest stat about him is his last three fights, he won by knockout. The combined time for all three fights, 19 seconds. He knocked someone out in 4 seconds, in 3 seconds, and in 12 seconds. And his only other fight that made it outside of 15 seconds, he won still in the first round, still by knockout. I mean, the guy literally had his guard up. You think about when Justin Gaethje had kicked DP, he had his guard up and he still got KO'd. Same thing, only with his fucking fist. Like, this dude is the definition of power, power personified. He's gonna have an 8-inch reach advantage here. He does nothing but pressure forward, really low hands with his Taekwondo style, get him in trouble because we don't know how his wrestling is. We don't know how his chin is. We don't know how his cardio is. But we may never find out, or at least we're not going to find out right now against Josh Parisian, because I think the way you beat this guy is everyone's going to try to do. You go out there, you wrestle him, you tap him out, or you get this guy tired. Josh Parisian can't wrestle. Josh Parisian likes to strike. He's 34 years old. Despain's 35. But yeah, Josh Parisian's 34. He's extremely slow. He himself has cardio issues. His volume's pretty decent for a heavyweight. But that being said, he still gets hit a ton. He's hittable. He gets hit more than he dishes out. So he gets hit at a very high clip. He himself keeps his hands very low, and he has a tendency to back up in his fights, which is not good because Despain feels comfortable when going forward. This all in all is a sacrifice. Josh Parisian, God bless you. You're gonna get cut. I don't know if the UFC forced him to take this fight since he's on a 2-fight losing streak. I have no idea. But he's screwed. Oh this is a sanctioned murder. I don't know what's going on here. So I do hope I pray for his health. Otherwise he's getting a paycheck and he's getting cut. It's gonna be Despain. It's gonna be Despain by KO. No value on that, but the pick is Despain. The bet is gonna be Despain. He will be an anchor in a lot of my parlays. Only 4-0 against crappy competition, but Josh Parisian is crappy competition. Speaking of crappy fighters, Felipe Lenz plus 110 going up against Iwan Kutalaba minus 130. Over under actually is not showing for whatever reason. I have no idea why. As long as it's 2.5, I'll probably end up taking the under. Because both these guys are interesting, man. They're both finishers and they're both quitters at the same time. Let's start with Felipe Lenz. Address the elephant in the room. He's 38 years old. Dude's old as shit. He will have a 3-inch reach advantage. He does have good striking, and his boxing, his hands are very fast, to be honest with you. His wrestling's not bad. It's gonna sound like a weird stat. It's a little skewed, but he does have 100% takedown defense. Again, in the UFC, he's fought Andrei Arlovsky, Tanner Boser, Marcin Prachnio, OSP, and Maxime Grisham. So not really any wrestlers per se, but still, I've seen him sprawl. I see him separate his legs. He did some good work up against the cage. His takedown defense looks solid. Is the 100% number screwed? It's a little skewed, but it still looks good. It looks like he knows how to wrestle. I've even seen him utilize takedowns. He took down Marcin Prachnio multiple times. Like, the kid can wrestle a little bit. He has really fast hands. Problem with Felipe is that he does not have good cardio. He does slow down a ton in this fight. Honestly, borderline gasses out. He's also very hittable, and has a bad chin. When you look at his losses, he got knocked out by Tanner Boser. That's a terrible look. That is a terrible, terrible, terrible look. He lost to Vadim Nemkov. Now, Vadim is nasty. He's very, very good, but it was by KO. He lost the fight before that by KO. So all of his losses outside of one decision loss are by KO. So the dude's has bad cardio, he's hittable, and he has a bad chin. And honestly, his wins in the UFC He's looked much better at light heavyweight. The Tanner Bozer and Arlovsky and Vadim Nemkov losses are all at heavyweight. He slimmed down, he took it seriously, and he looks a lot better at light heavyweight. But he looks better against Marcin Prachnio, who's not UFC caliber. OSP, who I think retired after that fight, and Maxim Grisham, who was also old and got cut after that fight. So who's he really beating in this hindsight? I don't know, man. He's not the world's worst fighter, but he was over in like PFL and all these other leagues first. I think he spent his prime there, and we're getting 38-year-old slowing down lens. Good news for him is that he's fighting Ian Cutelaba, who's not the greatest fighter himself. He's a Moldovan wrestler. His jujitsu's okay offensively. Defensively, he's a little bit of a liability. His striking's not terrible, but it's not great. He hits decently hard. He's a big boy. He does kind of make me feel like he's a middleweight. This is going to be back. He went middleweight for one fight and then went right back up to light heavyweight. Ian himself is a little chinny. He has a ton of losses by KO. Magomed Ankalaev by KO. Kennedy Nchukwu by KO. Johnny Walker subbed him. That doesn't look good. Ryan Spann with that guillotine. He guillotines a lot of people. I don't know, man. It's just he's not a terrible fighter, but he's not good. I don't know what to do with this dude. He's just a little bit of his BJJ defensively. He's just a liability. He has 77% takedown defense himself. So what if Felipe takes him down? Because Felipe actually has good jujitsu. Um, Ian's volume on the feet is okay, and again, he has decent power. And he himself, his cardio issues, he slows down in his fights. So you have two people that are chinny, two people with cardio issues. I don't know, man. I want to stay away from this fight. To me, it's just straight dog or pass. However, who's better on the feet? I will say Lens. And if this fight does stay on the feet with that 100% takedown defense, if his takedown defense truly is at a Chris Curtis level, and he forces his fight to stay on the feet, dog or pass, baby. It sounds terrible. 38 years old, but he has a 3-inch reach advantage, that 100% takedown defense, the faster hands. Got to take him. So the pick is going to be Lens. The bet is going to be Lens, and I don't feel good about it. Next fight of the night is God, this is a controversial one. We have Michel Pereira at -150 going up against Michael Oleksiejczuk at +125. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 is -175. Under 1.5 at +135. We got to start with my boy. We said we will not turn our backs on our boys. We bet Brandon Royval. I don't care if Pettis does bare knuckle fighting. I'm going to bet Anthony Pettis. That's the original favorite fighter. Certain fighters are just your boys, and you stick with Bill Algio's another one. No matter what, I'm going to bet Bill Algio. You know who another one of my boys are? Michel Pereira. He is untrustworthy personified. You cannot trust this dude. You can't trust him as far as you can throw him. Man, I don't even know where to start with Michel Pereira. First and foremost, probably the most exciting fighter in the UFC currently. He's the one you'll see jumping off the cage, doing backflips in the middle of his fight, throwing nothing but flying knees, open hand slapping guys, doing capoeira moves and dance moves and incorporating them into the fight. He dances all the way to the octagon. But when he takes away all the silliness, the dude has a ton of power. He's extremely fast, sneaky good wrestling. We saw him utilize it against Chaos Williams, Nico Price. Like he's a sneaky good wrestler. His jiu-jitsu game's fine. It's not great, but it's not terrible. Carries a ton of power, 94% takedown defense. He's not easy to take out. Biggest problem with him is his cardio, first and foremost. He does throw a ton of volume too. For a guy that's so creative and throws so much power into everything, he throws a ton of volume, but that makes him tired. And he has suspect cardio, and his ring IQ might be the worst in the UFC. It's pretty bad. Like it's very, very, very bad. There's gonna be a second fight at 185. People questioned he was the definition of a size bully. He was just bigger than absolutely everybody. He struggled on the scales. We had the Wonder Boy fight get canceled because he missed weight. Wonder Boy refused to take the fight. So then the UFC forced him to go up to 185. And what does he do? He goes out there and knocks out Andre Petrowski in 1 minute. Andre Petrowski's not a bad fighter, and he went out there and made it look easy. So is he better at 185? Maybe. Is his cardio better at 185? Maybe. I'm not too sure. His first fight at 185 in a very long time, he went out there and finished him in 1 minute and looked very impressive. So I don't know, man. This guy's very, very good in space. If you give him any sort of space, he's throwing some wild kicks at you, wild knees, and you are in trouble. Like the guy is good. On the other side, we have Mikel. He is the I just said how Michel Pereira needs space. Only in Chase Chuck does nothing but pressure. He is the definition of forward pressure. I can't emphasize it enough. He's not the world's greatest striker, but he's decent on the feet, and all he does is move forward. He's very durable. I've seen him rocked a few times, but you generally can't put this guy out. He himself throws a ton of volume. I don't know, man. He just wants to break you with pressure. You have like the Marabs who go out there and break you at the wrestling. This guy does it by moving forward, and he never takes a step backwards. He will go forward and forward and forward, and you get tired punching this guy in the face because he's so durable. So you're backing up the entire time, hitting him with absolute bombs, and he just eats it and keeps coming at you. And then he ultimately finishes you. I mean, it happens time and time again. He has a lot of like second and third round finishes, just because you gas out beating the hell out of him. Now, the thing where he struggles is his jujitsu. His jujitsu sucks. He's not good on the ground. And to top it off, he also has 48% takedown defense. So he's not the greatest wrestler, and he's not the greatest on the ground. Problem is, he fought Chidi Njokuani, who's a striker. He went out there and broke him in round one. Cody Brundage, he went out there. He got taken down multiple times. He got back up and broke Cody Brundage, who's a known gasser. Sam Alvey can't wrestle. He just walked him down and knocked him out. Shamil Gaziev can't wrestle. Went out there and knocked him out. Modestas Bukakas, he just walked forward. And again, Modestas does have good cardio, but he's someone that likes to back up the entire fight and just counter strike. And that worked. I mean, Mikel just eventually got to him. So what you have to do to get him out of there is sub him. Dustin Jacoby didn't sub him. He was able to just outpoint him, but Dustin Jacoby's one of the best strikers in the division. Caio Borralho took him down and just tapped him out. Jimmy Crute just took him down and tapped him out. OSP took him down and tapped him out. He does not have good wrestling. He does not have good jujitsu. Michel Pereira has sneaky good wrestling and okay jujitsu. Problem is, Michel Pereira has the worst fight IQ, and we're in front of an audience. Michel's not going to want to take someone down and grapple in front of thousands and thousands of people. He's going to want to jump off the fucking cage as Ollie Chase Chuck walks forward towards him. So, can Michel win this fight? Absolutely. Can he knock out Michael Ollie and Chase Chuck? Absolutely. Would the easiest path be to just take him down and ground him out or submit him? Absolutely. Will Michel Pereira do that? No, he's going to go for the knockout. So God bless. Hopefully 185, he's able to keep his cardio going. I will not turn my back on my boy. I'm going to go ahead and side with Vegas and pick Michel Pereira. But honestly, if I'm 100% honest with you, this might be a live betting opportunity for someone who's not attached to Michel. Only in J Chuck, if he's still around in round two, Michel's probably going to get tired. He's going to gas himself out trying to knock him out. So it kills me to say the bet is probably a live bet only in Chuck, but his cardio's not the greatest either. So it's either he's going to break him in round two, or they're both going to gas out and it's going to get real sloppy. I'm not turning my back on my boy. Pick is going to be Michel Pereira. The bet's going to be Michel Pereira, but please keep a lookout on how their gas tanks are looking. All right. Next fight of the night. We got 14 of these, so let's pick up the pace a little. We have Pedro Munoz at plus 195 going up against the Matrix Tyler Phillips at minus 240. Over under at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 300. Under 2.5 plus 220. Let's start with the Matrix. He's good, man. I went back. I watched his tape. He's better than I remember. He got in some problems regarding juicing. It happens. The dude was on the good stuff. He was on the sauce. He came back. He didn't look the same after the sauce, but he still looks good. There's not really any negatives on him. He's a good striker, very, very good striker. He's a good wrestler, very, very good jujitsu. Ton of volume. He'll mix in the wrestling when he needs to. He has a good fight IQ. Like the dude is the complete package. He's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage in this matchup. He trains with the current champ of the weight class in Sean O'Malley. Like there's nothing wrong with this guy except for one thing. He will slow down a little. Now, when he was on the sauce, his cardio was just fine. When you take him off the gear, He slows. He does slow quite a bit. We saw it in the Julian Paiva fight. We saw it in his fight against Hani Barcelos. We saw it in the Marcelo Rojo. He looked all right. He slowed down, but he still got a third round finish. But you see it quite a bit. Song Yadong, I saw it. He loses round three a lot because he slows down when he's not on the sauce. So just be cognizant of that. His opponent, Pedro Munoz, does not slow down. He has good cardio. He has really good cardio. He's the leg kick master. Now again, Phillips does have a long reach. He's a 7-inch reach advantage here. But it's Pedro never has a reach advantage. He has little T-Rex arms, so he's used to not having a reach, so it's not really a big deal to him. He throws a ton of volume, a ton of volume. 82% takedown defense. Very hard to take down. He's kind of short in stature, pretty hard for people to shoot doubles on him. Kyler prefers to use that folk style, single leg, double leg style. It's going to be kind of difficult on Pedro. So on the feet, we're going to go tit for tat on volume. On the ground, Munoz is world class on the ground, but he never uses it because he never fucking wrestles. He's only shot 2 takedowns in like his it was two or three total in all of his UFC fights. The dude just refuses to wrestle. He just wants to stand and bang. And if you happen to hit the ground, he'll sub you. The dude is a nasty guillotine. Dude's really good on the ground. He just doesn't like to use it. He is training at ATT, which is going to be the Florida base camp. So that's nice. So he may have the crowd behind him. I don't know, man. My mind says Kyler's going to win this fight. He throws the flashier stuff. He throws just as much volume. He's going to have the reach advantage. He hits harder. But at the same time, he does slow down. I expect Kyler to win round one. I expect Munoz to win round three. Munoz is very durable here. And then round two, I think, is going to be the toss-up round. We saw this in Pedro's last fight against Cheeto Vera, who's in the main event here. And they went tit for tat. They both threw a ton of volume. They threw a ton of leg kicks. And it was a very close fight. I personally almost scored it for Munoz. It was a very, very close fight. But at the end of the day, they gave it to the more power, the more quality shot. And those are actually going to come from Phillips here. Difference is Cheeto won round three. Cheeto has good cardio. Phillips won't. So I don't know here. I agree with Vegas. I think Phillips should be the favorite. I just don't agree with this line. Plus 195 for Munoz is egregious. If anything, this might be a a split. I will be taking a look at that split prop when it comes out. But as of right now, I'm gonna pick Kyler Phillips. I think he should win this fight. But where is the value? It's on Munoz all day. If anything, you want to bet, you can parlay the over. I don't see this fight ending inside the distance. I think the over 2.5 is a shoe-in. It's minus 300. It's a little chalky, but if you just want guaranteed money, I'll pick Kyler. I would just honestly parlay the over 2.5 and not pick a side. And if you're value chasing, you can do Munoz or Munoz by split and get really, really good odds there. Next fight of the night. We have Mateusz Gamrot at minus 455 going up against Rafael Dos Anjos at plus 350. Over under sitting at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 315. Under 2.5 at plus 230. Let's start with Gamrot. I think Gamrot's really good. I think Gamrot's getting a little bit of the shaft and should probably fight for the title next if he wins here. Maybe one more. I'll give him one more after. He has really good wrestling. He has really good cardio. He has great cardio actually, and he has great wrestling. Well, I don't even want to understate it. Great wrestling, great cardio. Striking's okay. He is the Florida-based fighter in regards to where he trained at ATT. His schedule is pretty good, fighting Armin Sarukian, Garam, Jalen Turner, Rafael Fiziev, Diego Ferraro. Like all these guys are good fighters. Benny Dariush. He has good jujitsu. He's very good down there. The problem with him is he's a little hittable, and the problem he's hittable is because he throws so little volume. His volume, he needs to up that thing. Not a lot of volume on the feet. He's getting better each and every time, and he prefers to counter. And you see that time and time again. If you are a counter striker, your numbers are usually kind of low. And it's no different here. Only difference is this wrestling is so good, man. He's getting like 4 takedowns per minute. Per fight, or I don't know what I'm saying. He gets a ton of takedowns. Sorry, I am a little delirious. Don't feel the greatest today. Gamrot's a great wrestler. That's what he is. He's good on the ground. He's a good striker, but he is a phenomenal wrestler, and he will wrestle you all day. Even the Jalen Turner fight that went to a split, people will hold that against him. He took the fight on like 10 days notice. I think people are forgetting that. And he knew he had to wrestle. He can't just strike with Jalen Turner. So he had to have a wrestle heavy game plan on short notice. And he still got the job done. He dug deep and he got the nod there. So credit to him. He's 33. He's in his prime. He's about to leave his prime. So if he's going to do the damn thing, he's got to do it now. On the other side, we have a man who is not in his prime. We have RDA. RDA is a generalist. He's good everywhere. He has good striking. He has good jujitsu. He has okay wrestling. But his wrestling seems to have been at a decline as of late. Like getting taken down by Vicente Luque 8 times is not a good look. Um, Rafael Fiziev was able to stifle his wrestling on a defensive front. He got a win over Moicano, which is nice, but Moicano was on short notice. And when you just look at his overall career, he could not take down Leon Edwards, and he ultimately got pieced up. Michael Chiesa just out grappled him and fucked him up. Kamaru Usman out grappled him and fucked him up. Colby Covington went out there and out grappled him and fucked him up. Eddie Alvarez just knocked him out in 1 minute. So at the end of the day, unless you're catching him with something, you just wrestle fuck him, and he can't handle it. That's what Vicente Luque did in his very last fight. He just got grapple fucked, and he couldn't do anything about it. Dude struggles with wrestlers. 56% takedown defense. That's not a good rating, especially going up against someone like Gamrot, where their bread and butter is wrestling. Now, Gamrot might be low-key chinny. We saw him dropped in the Jalen Turner fight. We saw him dropped in the Arman Sarukian fight. We saw him dropped in the Miguel Dariush fight. When I went back and did fight tape, I didn't realize how chinny Gamrot was. That is something to keep an eye out for. But Anyos doesn't exactly carry a ton of power. He's not knocking fools out in one hitters. He's more of a war of attrition guy. And Gamrot, it's only 3 rounds. He has enough cardio for 3 rounds. He'll be fine here. So the pick is going to be Gamrot. The bet's going to be Gamrot for RDA to get grapple fucked yet again. If Vicente Luque did it, a Gamrot could do it. Next fight of the night. Fuck what this says. We have Caitlin Chukagian at plus 170. No disrespect to her husband. Macy Barber minus 205. Over 2.5 is minus 360. Under 2.5 at plus 260. Let's start with let's say it right. Caitlin Sarmanera. I don't know, Caitlin Chukagian. At the end of the day, we've seen Caitlin for years on years on years, and nothing has changed. I don't know why I did fight tape for her, because the fight is the same. It's exactly the same every single time. My boy Clintus Duplessis over at Die Hard MMA podcast, our boy, he said it best: death, taxes, and Chukagian by decision, because that's all she does. The girl has the least amount of power I've ever seen in a UFC fighter. She has great striking, really good distance control. She's very, very good on the feet. She is hard to hit. Her wrestling, not the greatest. 54% takedown defense. But she has a decent little ground game on her now. She's now a brown belt. I know that Valentina Shevchenko was able to dominate her on the ground. I know God, who else dominated? Jessica I took her down a few times. Liz Camus was able to take her down. Like before, that was a little bit of an issue getting taken down and struggling down there. But she's worked on it. Those were years and years and years ago. We're talking like 6, 7 years ago. Her ground game again. She's now a brown belt. She's very good on the ground. Very active guard in her last fight against not last fight, in the fight against oh God, where is she? Jessica Andrade took her down, and she was very active. That was the one that threw me off when I realized how good she was on the ground. She was rolling around like she was Brandon Royval down there, just knee bar, arm bar, Kimura. Just it was. I couldn't tell if it was Caitlin Chukagian or Diego Lopez down there for a little bit. So her ground game has improved, and now she's that girl that will outpoint you on the feet. If you take her down, she'll threaten you with a sub, and then get back to her feet and do it all over again. She's not going to KO you. She has zero power. She has a 3-inch reach advantage, as she always has a reach advantage, and she just distance management, baby. That's all she does. Jab you to death, outpoint you, and get the dub. On the other side, we have the complete opposite. We have Macy Barber, who does everything with power. She has good striking, and it's only getting better. She'll try to mix in wrestling from time to time, but she's not the greatest wrestler. She has a wrestling build. You would think she's short, stocky, really good wrestler. Trains at Team Alpha Male. Her wrestling has gotten better since she's been a Team Alpha Male. She was originally a Duke Rufus. Duke Rufus is not known for their wrestling. You think of the Pettis brothers, they can't fucking wrestle to save their lives. Gerald Mearshart was at Duke Rufus, can't wrestle to save his life. Yeah, not a wrestling camp. Great at jujitsu, great at striking, cannot wrestle. And she left, she went to a wrestling heavy camp on purpose. And she's been mixing it in. She mixed it in against Amanda Ribas, against Andrea Lee. Takedown defense has looked better, but it's still showing 45% career wide. That's not the greatest look. Her jiu-jitsu is all right, but she can be put in some precarious situations. Her cardio is good. Her schedule is pretty good. But so is Caitlin's for both. She just charges in really, really hard, which is going to be interesting. Because again, Caitlin will point fight you, dance around the octagon. Macy Barber's a bull, charges forward and tries to knock your head off. Caitlin, not the most durable girl in the world. She's not chinny by any means. But we've seen her hurt with a few shots here. Macy, on the other hand, a slow starter. She gives up the first round against basically everyone. So you have Caitlin starting with a round one, probably. And then she just has to find her way to Chukagian for one more round. I think she probably does it. I think the line's off. I think they're getting way too much value on Caitlin Chukagian. I don't want to do it. I like Macy Barber. Macy Barber hit her last fight. We hit that glory play. We had her at like plus 2,000 as in a round two KO, and she got the job done. Credit to Macy Barber. I've been reading her like a book. Did not bet her against and even her losses. Alexa Grasso is the current champion. And the Roxanne Mataferi fight, she tore her ACL in like the first round and tried to fight through it. She was a one-legged fighter and lost, and then she came back after a 2-year break and fought the champion. Like, what are you doing here? Now, don't get me wrong. The win against Miranda Maverick, very questionable. I thought Maverick won, and I'm not high on Maverick, so that's not the greatest look. The Andrea Lee fight, Andrea has definitely slowed down, and she won a split decision over her just a year ago. That's not a good look. Macy's only 25. She's very inconsistent. You don't know what version of her you're going to get. So I can't trust her at minus 205. The pick is going to be Chukagian. The bet is going to be Chukagian by decision. Then that takes us to the next fight. We have Curtis Razor Blades at minus 120, going up against Jailton Almeida at minus 100, over under at 1.5, over 1.5 minus 150, under 1.5 at plus 120. Let's start with Curtis Razor Blades. Dude's fire, man. He's good. He has good wrestling, very good wrestling. He has good cardio, trains at elevation. You think about the Volkov fight where he got 14 takedowns as a heavyweight. Like, that's a lot for anybody. That's Rob numbers. He has good striking. It's gotten a whole hell of a lot better than when he debuted. His jujitsu we don't see a ton of because you never see him on his back. People say he's chinny. I don't know, man. I really realistically don't know if he's chinny. He could be countered, which isn't great. Again, his striking has improved. It's still not a work of art, but it's not bad. We saw him knock out Chris Dawkins. He didn't use any of his wrestling. I actually saw that live. It was an awesome fight. But I don't know if he's necessarily chinny. Read the names of the people that knocked him out. Sergey Pavlovich, who people say is possibly the hardest hitter, if not like the second hardest hitter in the UFC currently. Derek Lewis, who has the most knockouts in UFC history, who's the hardest hitter. And then Francis Ngannou, who was the hardest hitter when he was in the UFC. Those are the only men to beat Curtis Blades, and they're the only men to do it by knockout. So is he chinny? I don't know. I went back and watched that Cody East fight, and he rocked him. That's not a good look. But he did fight Mark Hunt, who hits really hard. He fought Rosenstrike, who hits really hard. I don't know. I've seen Tom Aspinall. It only lasted 15 seconds. It doesn't count. Um, but I don't know, man. He's good. He's only lost to title challengers or the literal champion. Dude's good everywhere. The dude is very underrated. He's disrespected. He has a stuttering problem and always talks about it in his interviews, and it's just an inspirational dude. I actually like Curtis Blades a lot more than I remember. The more I did the fight tape and the more I watched his interviews, I'm definitely pro Curtis Blades in this matchup. So I had to go in and say, you know what? I can't get my bias aside. Let me see what's going on with Jailton Almeida. And I did the complete opposite. I was not impressed by his tape. I remember him being a lot more dominant than he truly is. First and foremost, the dude's a light heavyweight. He's not a heavyweight. He's big. He's cut. He's not a heavyweight. It has to suck to get down to 205. It's probably not a fun cut for him, but the dude needs to do it. He can't keep fighting these guys that are 265 pounds. Dude, world class jiu-jitsu. The dude's very, very, very good on the ground. His wrestling's not that great. He's shooting low singles against some of these heavyweights. I mean, yeah, he's getting the takedowns against these big boys, but these big boys' names are Parker Porter. These big boys' names are Shamil, like a 42-year-old Shamil. I don't even want to say his last name. Sorry. Abdura Kimov. Anyway, it's Shamil. He's not the greatest wrestler in the world. Rosinho Rosenstrike, not a good wrestler. And once he gets them down, most of these heavyweights don't have jujitsu. Derek Lewis, no wrestling, no jujitsu. And the fact that everyone's going to harp on the fact that he couldn't finish Derek Lewis, they should. That's a terrible look. The dude was huffing and puffing. He can't strike. He's been knocked out himself. He's very, like, I think the reason he shoots so desperately is because he knows he's chinny. He's very uncomfortable on the feet. The few times he stayed on the feet, I've seen him rocked and I've seen him put out. He's literally, his first career loss was a 15-second knockout. Dude is low-key chinny. Not the greatest wrestler, just a jiu-jitsu practitioner. He is a jiu-jitsu guy who is fighting MMA. Low volume, terrible cardio. He slows a ton. You know what he is? He is a oldies version of the black belt hunter. Striking's not great, but he knows what's going on there, but it's not good, and he doesn't like to strike. He can wrestle, but it's not his strong suit. But when he gets you down, he has dominant top control. There's no difference between Jailton Almeida and Rodolfo Vieira, and no one considers Rodolfo Vieira a potential title challenger. Rodolfo, he's going to run into a good wrestler and run into issues. Well, you know what? We're going to see it here with Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades is probably going to kill this dude. The line is way off. I wanted Blades as a dog when they originally had this slated. I am pissed off that that is gone. I don't even care that he's minus 120. It can stay a pick 'em. It can go up to minus 150. The pick is Curtis Blades. The bet is Curtis Blades. I'm all in. Next fight of the night is one I keep going back and forth on. We have Peter Yan making his return, going up against Song Yadong. Straight pick 'em at minus 115. Over under sitting at 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 280. Under 2.5 at plus 210. Let's start with Peter Yan. We haven't seen him since the Marab fight. Peter Yan is a former champ. He trains at AT&T, so maybe he'll have the crowd behind him when they announce training in Florida. He trains at Tiger Muay Thai too. I think has disbanded as of late. But usually when you have refights in the States, he's fighting over at ATT. He has good striking. He has world-class striking. Very, very, very good striking. He has really good wrestling. He has good jiu-jitsu. He has great cardio. He's fought the who's who, considering he's a former champion. 85% takedown defense. The problem with Jan is that he gives up the first round. We saw him fight Marab. He gave up the first round. He fought Sean O'Malley. I thought he won the first round, but some people gave it the other way. Aljamain Sterling, he gave up the first round. Aljamain Sterling again gave up the first round. Jose Aldo gave up the first round. Corey Sandhagen gave up the first round. They talk about him analyzing. He lets you punch him into this face, figures out your timing, and then beats the shit out of you. That's what he does. And since 2020, the last 4 years, basically all of his fights are 5-rounders, so he's okay giving away the first round because then he has you figured out and he has 4 rounds to beat your ass. This is a 3-round fight. You give away the first round, you have to win the next 2. And that's what happened with Sean O'Malley. He only had 1 fight that was a 3-rounder since 2020, and he lost it. He gave away the first round, and then the judges saw it differently when the next 2. I mean, it is what it is. It happens. I still think he won that fight. I think the Sugar Show got a little bit of a boost just because of who he is. It is what it is. Shouldn't have been that close. Shouldn't have given away the first round. And we have another 3-rounder here, so it does concern me. The dude's good everywhere. It shows a 3-fight losing streak. He shouldn't be. I thought he won the Aljo fight. I thought he won the Sean O'Malley fight. And his other loss, he got DQ'd. So it is what it is. You also have his first career fight against Magomed Magomedov. That was also a split that honestly I thought he won. He won the rematch easily. So this dude right now is showing a record of 16-5. and 4 of those were split decisions. He goes to a ton of splits. So he could potentially be 20-1. That looks a lot different than 16-5. Peter Yan is only 31. The kid's fucking good. But I call him a kid at 31. Song Yadong, this kid is fucking good. He's only 26 years old. He's at Team Alpha Male. He has good striking. He has good wrestling. He has okay jujitsu. 73% takedown defense. So if Yan wanted to take him down, he probably could. The problem with Yadong is he has a ton of power and he throws a ton of power, but he seems to struggle with the speedy guys a little bit. Marlon Vera was faster than him. Kyler Phillips was faster than him. Corey Sandhagen was faster than him. And they all just kind of outpointed him. Dude's very durable, tough to knock out. He's been knocked out before, back in 2016. He was super young. But outside of that, he's generally pretty durable. You just outpoint this kid. Like he throws with so much heat and so much ill intent that sometimes you can just jab him twice as he's loading up and trying to put your lights out. So it is something to be cognizant of. These are two great strikers, two decent wrestlers, two okay jujitsu practitioners who don't really utilize it, and it's probably going to be a striking war. Who do I think wins? Yan. But for some reason, my gut is telling me because Yadong hits harder and Yan keeps losing these split decisions, another split loss for Yan would not surprise me. I'm not going to pick that. I'm going to pick Yan in this fight. Way to bet it is the over. I can't pick a side. I think it's going to be way too close. I think it's going to go to a split decision. The over 2.5 is minus 280. I might just parlay that with the other minus 300 over from earlier and call it a day. I don't want to pick a side. Gun to my head, I'm choosing Peter Yan, but the bet's going to be the over 2.5. Or you can just do fight good distance. All right, next fight of the night. We have the Civil War, the People's Civil War of the night. We have Gilbert Del Reno Burns at plus 140 going up against Jack Della Maddalena at minus 165. Over under at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 210. Under 1.5 at plus 160. Let's start with Burns. Burns has good striking. He fought a great schedule, world-class jiu-jitsu, pretty good wrestling, Problem with Burns is that he's a touch chinny. Everyone talks about the jab. Yeah, Kamaru Usman knocked him out with a jab. Hamzat knocked him down with a jab. It happens. You jab this dude, he kind of falls over. I don't know why. He's 37 years old. That probably has something to do with it. He's getting a little chinny. And to be honest with you, he is a lightweight. He just can't. The older he got, the harder it was to make that cut. So he had to go up to 170. Again, he's done well at 170, even fought for a title at 170, but he lost because he's not truly a 170 pounder. He's just older and it's harder for him to get down there. 37 years old, man, but he's literally good everywhere. Really good ring IQ. We've seen him go out there and he fought Kamaru Usman. He knows that he's a little chinny and you can kind of just overwhelm him. And that's what he tried to do in that fight. We saw the complete opposite. He fought Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He is a striker only, can't really grapple. Went out there and put a singlet on and grappled with him. Like, he's a smart guy. Like, Hamzat, he fought Hamzat. Hamzat took him down and he started throwing subs up to scare him. And Hamzat himself said he did not want to be down there with him. Magny has a ton of submission losses, so he didn't brawl. He went out there and he subbed him real fast. So I don't know, man. He's a very, very high fight IQ. I like the guy a lot. And he trains at Kill Cliff FC primarily. And that is in Florida. So he might have the crowd behind him. On the other side, we have Jack Della Maddalena. He's only 27 years old, so he's entering his prime. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage, really good striking, a ton of power. His jiu-jitsu is okay. It was initially very bad. He got choked out and decided he was going to work on it, and it's gotten much, much better. It's very much improved. Not world-class Gilbert Burns level, but it's okay. Problem is his wrestling. The thing is, it's a tale of two stories. He has 82% takedown defense, but everyone's going to go to the Basil fight where he went out there and won a split decision over Basil, who took him down easily before he gassed out. That is true. But when I went back and rewatched it, part of it was just ring IQ. Basil did get one takedown, nothing to say there. He took him down easily. But the other two takedowns Basil had, Jack jumped Gilly and couldn't get up after he jumped Gilly. Basil didn't necessarily take him down easily. And in the third round, his team yelled at him, said, "Do not jump the guillotine. You will lose the fight if you jump guillotine." And when Basil shot, he just sprawled and he was fine. He didn't get taken down. So yeah, I his stage defense isn't great, but some of that was him jumping guillotine. Now again, that's not good for his ring IQ that he kept fucking doing it. He very well could have lost that fight. So I'm more concerned about his ring IQ than I have his wrestling. I don't know, man. I think he's good. I think if it stays on the feet, I have a feeling he knocks out Burns. I don't think Burns is going to want this on the feet. He's going to want to wrestle. And even in the embedded episodes, Burns was wrestling. Every single video of him training for the fight was him wrestling. So Burns knows what he has to do, and it's going to come down to the takedown defense. Can Burns take down JDM? If so, honestly, you want a greasy theory? I saw Burns taking down and throwing a ton of elbows, not even going for subs, just going for really, really hard ground and pound. If you want to do Burns by KO, it's like plus 1,000, and he could catch anyone on the feet. Burns hits hard, but he could also catch him just ground and pound on the ground. That plus 1,000 is a good number. If you want to just go classic Burns by sub, you can do that as well, or you just want to take Burns on the money line because it's plus 140. That's fine. JDM, if you want to bet him, I think it's got to be by knockout. Burns is a little chinny, and JDM throws everything down the middle, and those are the ones that catch Burns. So the exact shots you need to take out Burns are the ones that JDM throws. The exact way that JDM loses is by getting out grappled. That's exactly what Burns is going to try to do. So who's going to catch who first? If anything, you could bet the under. Now betting the under 2.5 was like minus 120 or something like that, and that could cover the Jack Della knockout and the Burns sub and the Burns KO. Like it's probably going to cover all of it. That's probably the way to go. Otherwise, if you want a value chase, you can just go Burns. So I'll go fight IQ. I'll go wrestling. I'll pick Burns. I'll bet Burns. Just value chasing, but I don't hate just taking the under 2.5. That's another way to play this. Next fight of the night, we have Kevin Holland minus 135 going up against the debut of Michael Venom Page, MVP, at plus 115. Over 2.5 minus 190, under 2.5 at plus 145. Let's start with MVP in case you don't know who he is. He is a British karate style fighter who's honestly he's very, very good on the feet. I'll give him that. He has good striking, a decent amount of power. He has good losses. I mean, he has two career losses, and they are to whatchamacallit. Oh my God, why is it escaping me? Logan Storley, and Douglas Lima, not Diego Lima. Douglas Lima. Douglas Lima's good. He's very good. He's always been good. And Logan Storley's sneaky good too. So those are not bad losses to have over in Bellator. Problem with him is that he's very low volume. Yes, he hits hard. Yes, he's very hard to hit. Like his head movement is insane. His footwork is insane. He's very creative, but he kind of blitzes in. You think about like I think about Bobby Knuckles blitzing in all the time, the way Umar blitzes in. But MVP's blitzes are different. They're fast. Like this dude is fast as fuck. He might be the fastest welterweight in the weight class, to be honest with you. And he hits decently hard to accompany that speed. It's just when he explodes, he resets and he stops and he bounces around. He stares at you. He dances. Then he explodes. He's not as cocky as that kid last week, Vinicius, who got the crazy flying knee knockout, probably knockout of the year. He's not Vinicius Oliveira cocky, but he's pretty damn close to it. Like he dances a lot. Then he acts a fool in the octagon. And he's gonna have a crowd, so he's gonna act really, really stupid there. So I don't know. World class striker. Dude's a phenomenal striker. His jiu-jitsu's gotten better. His wrestling is not the greatest, but you're not going to need to see his wrestling or jiu-jitsu because he's fighting Kevin Holland, who refuses to wrestle no matter what. No matter who he's fighting, he won't wrestle. He wants to strike. Kevin Holland is 31 years old. He's fought a pretty good level of competition himself, former middleweight. He has a 2-inch reach advantage in this matchup. MVP's used to being the longer guy, so that'll be interesting. Holland is world-class jiu-jitsu. He has a black belt. He's very good on the ground, but he can't wrestle, and even the matchups where he could, he won't do it. He just wants to strike for whatever reason. He himself has 53% takedown defense, but again, that's not going to be a thing here. I don't know, man. My problem is I think Holland probably wins. He's the overall better fighter. But what's the major difference between MVP and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson? We've seen this fight. Kevin Holland against a karate style fighter, and he lost and got pieced up quite a bit. He did catch Stephen Wonderboy a few times, but outside of that, he got rocked multiple times. It was hard for him to reach Wonderboy, and even in the fight, he kept talking about that boy is fast. Yeah, MVP's faster, and MVP hits harder. He doesn't throw as much volume as Wonderboy, so that's a thing. But he does throw faster and harder, so Holland might be in a little bit of trouble here. He has really good cardio. MVP's is okay. So at the end of the day, it's going to be perception of who you think is winning this fight. Holland will have the volume. MVP will have the speed and power. But Holland has some power himself. So it's going to be volume versus precision and what the judges see. Could this go to a split? Yeah, absolutely. MVP goes to a lot of split decisions with this style. I don't want to bet it, but if it's going to go to a split decision or a decision in general, that means that over's hitting, and over 2.5 is minus 190. It's probably the only way to play it. So the pick is going to be MVP. The bet's going to be over 2.5. And if you want to value chase, it would be MVP over Holland. It's a dog or pass situation. Speaking of which, we have the co-main event of the evening. We have my literal nemesis and Benoit Saint Denis at minus 205 going up against Dustin Poirier at plus 170. Over under at 1.5. Interesting, because this is a 5-round co-main event. Keep that in mind. Over 1.5 is minus 245. Under 1.5 at plus 185. I can't call him my nemesis and not talk about it. I don't think Benoit Saint Denis is good. Let me tell you why. It's not that he's bad. It's that he's raw. And there's a lot of stuff that's getting overlooked. First and foremost, he's 13-1. His only loss being the one where he almost literally died in the octagon against Zaleski. Whatever. It was short notice up a weight class. All the credit in the world to him. What I will say about Benoit is that he's hard. Like he hits very, very hard. He's very strong, very powerful, loves to move forward, throws that body kick over and over and over. His striking's not that great. It's kind of robotic. He's a little hittable, to be honest with you. And by a little, I mean like very hittable. Dude does not move his head, does not believe in head movement. He throws a ton of volume out there. I'll give him that, but that seems to make him tired. The dude slows down. We saw him slow down against Moises in the second round, but he got the job done in the second. We saw him slow down in the Zaleski fight. Anytime he gets pushed past the first round, he seems to slow down a little, to be honest with you. So he might have gas tank issues. I also think he has durability issues, to be honest with you. I will never overlook him getting rocked by Gabriel Miranda. Gabriel Miranda doesn't even know how to throw a punch. And he rocked him. Zaleski had him dancing around the octagon. Granted, it was up a weight class. Ismael Bonfim, he broke his arm right away. There's nothing going on there. Thiago Moises rocked him when he was marching in. And then Matt Frivola took him down easily. So his wrestling's not that great. So you're looking at a guy who's predominantly a jiu-jitsu practitioner who hits hard. That's his thing. He has a ton of power. He's very aggressive, marches forward, and if he hits you, he can put your lights out. If he wrestles you, he can sub you down there. He's very vicious on the ground, but he's not a great wrestler. And he gets hit a shit ton himself when he's on his feet, and you can hurt this guy. And I'm looking at his level of competition. Moises, first and foremost, is a featherweight. He's not a lightweight. I don't know why he's fighting at lightweight. And he has zero power whatsoever. Matt Frivola hits like an absolute truck, but Matt decided to go out there and wrestle, and he took him down, picked him up, and tossed him around the octagon. Benoit kicked him off, and then when they got back up, he threw a head kick as Matt was walking away and clipped him. And Matt is known for being chinny, so that's a thing. Ismael Bonfim, listen, all the credit in the world to God of War. Bonfim broke his arm in that fight. Was it from a kick? I believe it was from blocking a kick. So, I mean, Benoit did it, but he essentially choked out a one-arm fighter. Gabriel Miranda took the fight on short notice, up a weight class. And then, again, Stolze is no longer in the UFC, and Zaleski beat the shit out of him. So his wins, look at this. His wins, Stolze, who's not in the UFC, Gabriel Miranda, who now fights a weight class under, Ismael Bonfim, who had one arm, Thiago Moises, who's not a real lightweight, and then Chinny Matt Frivola. Like, yes, he did nothing wrong, but it's not that impressive of a resume, to be quite frank with you. I know I sound like a hater. Gabriel Miranda rocked this dude. That's not good. His chin's questionable and 44% striking defense. He doesn't move his head. If he fights a good striker who's durable enough on the feet, he's in serious trouble. And here's the questionable part with Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier is a black belt. He's just as good on the ground. It may not seem it, but Poirier is decent on the ground. Not scared of Benoit Saint Denis on the ground. On the feet, Poirier is much better. Poirier will kill him on the feet. Wrestling wise, not the best wrestler. I'll give him that. I'll give the advantage to Benoit there. But cardio wise, Poirier is great. Benoit gets tired. And I've only seen him in round two. He gasses out at the end of round two. This is a 5-round fight. Poirier is a good striking. He has good jiu-jitsu. Again, 63% takedown defense isn't questionable. Great schedule. My problem, he throws high volume as well. My problem is his chin is starting to go. He's starting to deteriorate. He's 35 years old. He's been in a ton of wars. So if Benoit Saint Denis wants to take him down and try to choke him out, he could probably take him down a few times and try to win that way. I just think he'll get tired with all that wrestling. If Benoit Saint Denis wants to strike with him, Poirier will piece him up, but it only takes one. Poirier is getting old. We saw him wobbled a few times. Again, this is going to be in Florida. DP trains out of Florida, so that's pretty good there. I don't know, man. I don't know. This is a weird fight. If this fight was 3 years ago, I would say this is Dustin Poirier, and this line is fucking absurd. This is 35-year-old Dustin Poirier, whose chin's starting to go. Justin Gaethje knocked him out. He's coming off a knockout. Justin Gaethje knocked him out. Michael Chandler rocked him badly. Charles Oliveira rocked him and subbed him. Habib gassed him out by doing a wrestling heavy approach. I understand why Saint Denis is the favorite, but this line is out of control. If his chin can hold up, I think he's going to kill Denis. The 5 rounds is what does it for me. I can't trust God of War in 5 rounds when I've seen him tired and rocked going 2 rounds. I can't do it. The pick is going to be DP. The bet is going to be DP plus 170 is fucking ridiculous. Absolutely not. And then that takes us to the main event. If you haven't already, give the video a like, and subscribe, give a follow over on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, wherever there's social media. There is the Stath and Stacks podcast. We have Sugar Sean O'Malley at minus 260 going up against Marlon Chito Vera at plus 210. Over under at 4.5. Over 4.5 minus 165. Under 4.5 at plus 130. Let's start with the Sugar Show. Suga is a really good striker. He's going to have an inch and a half inch reach advantage here. He has sneaky good jujitsu that no one talks about. He's been doing a lot of jujitsu competitions as of late. Like the dude's good on the ground. He can't wrestle, so that's part of the reason you don't see it. And he himself has 62% takedown defense. But the UFC knows what they're doing. They're not giving him wrestlers. Peter Yan doesn't really wrestle, but he took him down 6 times, so that was concerning. Aljamain Sterling is a wrestler, but he was the champion. They had no choice, and he was able to get the knockout before Aljo even took a shot. Julian Paiva doesn't wrestle. Pedro Munoz, we just said, has shot 3 takedowns in his entire 10-year career. Chris Montino, with short notice, doesn't wrestle. Thomas Almeida doesn't wrestle. Marlon Vera, they already fought. Marlon Vera doesn't wrestle. Eddie Wyland doesn't wrestle. Jose Alberto Quinones doesn't wrestle. There's a reason they're doing that. He might be a little questionable there. But his striking's fun. He's fun to watch. He hits hard. He throws a ton of volume. He will slow down a little bit too. He has a little bit of cardio issues. We saw it in the Peter Yan fight. He slowed down that one 3 rounds. The Chris Montino fight, he got a little tired from beating his ass. He still went the whole 3, but he was huffing puffing a little bit at the end there. So do keep an eye on his cardio. And he's really good at countering. He prefers to counter strike, but his volume's a lot higher than some of these other counter strikers. Like the dude's a talented guy. He looks funky. He talks all this crazy nonsense, but the dude is actually a skilled fighter. He's just a little catered to by the UFC, to be honest with you. They're not giving him any wrestlers. And here in this matchup, he has someone else who doesn't wrestle. So here we go. Chito Vera, he has pretty decent striking. Like Peter Yan, he's never won a first round. He gives it up, he analyzes, and then he picks up the pace. He has otherworldly cardio, really, really, really good cardio, really good jujitsu. If not a wash, his jujitsu might be even better than Sean O'Malley's he's a little hittable, but he's extremely durable. 70% takedown defense himself, but Sean doesn't really wrestle. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's his cardio. His cardio is his biggest weapon. He goes and he goes and he goes. However, there is rumors that there's some sort of like injury and he has no one to train with currently at his camp. Like there are some weird training issues going on with Cheeto Vera here. So we're probably not going to see 100% Cheeto Vera. But cardio is an absolute killer. I don't know, man. I don't know how compromised he is. I don't know what's hurting him, why he's having such a bad camp. I don't know what's going on here. So just keep an eye out. The UFC also announced that Merab Dvalishvili is the backup fighter. They never announced the backup fighter. When Magomed was the backup, they didn't say anything. When it was Anthony Smith, they didn't say anything. When it was Kobe Covington, they didn't say anything. They announced it that Marab was. So that's concerning. It makes me feel like whatever's going on with Cheeto, the UFC is just kind of positioning themselves to where if they need to pivot, everyone knows who Marab is. Everyone's expecting it. They know who it's going to be. And in that matchup, I would love Marab versus Sean. But at the end of the day, right now, we're talking about Cheeto and Sean. And I don't know, man. I think it's a setup fight. I think Sean can at least win 3 rounds and survive. He's going to win the first because Cheeto gives away every first round. He just needs to find 2 more rounds along the way, and he's definitely going to get the rub from the crowd. He's going to get the rub from the judges, and ultimately, I think he's going to get the win here. Cheeto's, I don't think he's ever been knocked out. The dude's durable as fuck. He's not going to knock him out now. So the pick is going to be Sean. The bet's probably going to be Sean by decision. But if anything, I'm just going to pick Sean straight up and use him in some parlay as a parlay piece because Vera is a very easy hedge at plus 210. So the pick is going to be Sean. The bet's going to be Sean. But if you have a parlay still going with the Sugar Show, make sure you hedge with Cheeto Vera. And that's UFC 299, man. It's a great card. It's a fun card. We've been winning money as of late. Had a rough start to the year, are picking it up as of late, and we're looking to hit everything here. So let's get it.